Most people believe that owning a house in America is no longer possible. Every headline screams the same story: rising prices, bidding wars, impossible mortgages, and families being pushed out of the market. But here is the truth that no one is talking about. While some cities are becoming outrageously expensive, other cities in the United States still have houses so cheap that they feel unreal. The question is not whether cheap homes still exist. The real question is why they exist and why so many people refuse to move there. In this video, we are going to uncover the real reasons why houses are so cheap in certain U.S. cities. Not rumors, not clickbait, but the economic, social, and lifestyle realities that keep prices low. By the end of this video, you will understand why these cities are affordable, who they are actually perfect for, and whether cheap housing is a hidden opportunity or a warning sign. Before we begin, understand this clearly. Cheap does not always mean bad, and expensive does not always mean better. Sometimes, the best places to live are the ones nobody is talking about. Let us start with the biggest reason of all. One of the main reasons houses are so cheap in certain U.S. cities is population loss. When people leave a city faster than new people arrive, demand for housing drops. When demand drops, prices fall. This is not complicated, but the reasons people leave can be complex. In many cities across the Midwest and parts of the Rust Belt, factories closed decades ago. Jobs disappeared. Younger generations moved to larger metro areas. What remained were empty homes, aging infrastructure, and fewer buyers competing for property. Cities like Detroit, Cleveland, Gary, and parts of St. Louis experienced this cycle again and again. Even when these cities begin to recover, housing prices stay low because there are simply more houses than people who want them. Another major reason housing stays cheap is limited job diversity. In expensive cities, there are multiple industries creating high-paying jobs. Technology, finance, healthcare, entertainment, and education all compete for talent. In cheaper cities, the economy often depends on only one or two industries. When those industries slow down, wages stagnate. Lower wages mean buyers cannot afford high home prices, so sellers are forced to keep prices low. This creates a market where houses are affordable, but income growth is slow. For some people, this trade-off is worth it. For others, it is a deal breaker. The third reason houses are cheap is negative perception. Some cities struggle with reputations that no longer match reality. Old news stories about crime, corruption, or decline continue to define places long after conditions have improved. Investors stay away. New residents hesitate. Prices remain low, not because the city is dangerous, but because people believe it is. Cities like Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Milwaukee spent years being underestimated. Even while quietly improving schools, downtowns, and public safety, perception can keep prices low for decades. Another powerful factor is property tax structure. In some cities, houses are cheap to buy, but expensive to maintain because of high property taxes. This scares away buyers who focus only on the monthly cost. As a result, sale prices remain low, even if the homes are large and well-built. In places like parts of Illinois, New Jersey, and upstate New York, property taxes play a major role in keeping home prices suppressed. Now let us talk about weather, a factor people underestimate. Cities with extreme winters or harsh summers often have lower housing prices. Long winters, heavy snow, or limited sunlight push people toward warmer or more temperate regions. Cities like Cleveland, Syracuse, Buffalo, and Duluth have beautiful neighborhoods and strong communities, but the climate alone keeps demand low. When fewer people want to live somewhere, housing becomes cheaper, no matter how solid the city actually is. Another reason is distance from major airports and hubs. Cities that are not well connected to national or international travel networks struggle to attract new residents. If reaching family, business centers, or vacation destinations requires long drives or multiple flights, people hesitate. This reduces demand and keeps prices low. Many affordable cities are not failing cities. They are simply isolated. There is also the issue of aging housing stock. In many cheap cities, homes are older. They were built decades ago, sometimes more than a century earlier. While these houses are often solidly constructed, they require maintenance, roofs, plumbing, electrical systems, and insulation all need upgrades. Buyers factor renovation costs into their offers, which lowers sale prices. For people willing to renovate, these cities offer incredible value. For others, the work feels overwhelming. Now let us shift to specific types of cities where housing stays cheap. Former manufacturing cities are some of the most affordable in America. These cities were once economic powerhouses. Steel, automobiles, shipping, and machinery created massive wealth. When global competition and automation changed everything, jobs disappeared almost overnight. The population shrank, but the houses remained. Entire neighborhoods were left behind. Today, these cities have more housing than they know what to do with. This imbalance keeps prices extremely low. Another category is college towns that never grew beyond the campus. Some cities rely almost entirely on a single university. When enrollment stabilizes or declines, housing demand stalls. Rental markets stay active, but homeownership demand remains weak. This creates opportunities for buyers who want stable, quiet environments without big city chaos. Then, there are rural-adjacent cities. These places are not fully rural, but not urban either. They lack the entertainment, nightlife, and career acceleration young professionals chase. However, they offer space, quiet, and affordability. Families, retirees, and remote workers often thrive in these cities, but because they are not trendy, prices stay low. Let us address something important. Cheap housing does not mean life will be easy. Many of these cities face challenges. Limited healthcare options, fewer entertainment choices, slower economic growth. But for the right person, these are not deal breakers. They are trade-offs. Now here is where the conversation gets interesting. Remote work has changed everything. People no longer need to live near offices. This single shift has started to breathe new life into cheap housing markets. Cities that were once ignored are suddenly attractive to people earning big city salaries while living small city lives. This is already happening quietly, and in some places, prices are beginning to rise. But here is the window of opportunity. Once people realize how affordable these cities are, prices will not stay low forever. Before we continue into specific cities and deeper reasons in part 2, let me ask you something important. Would you rather struggle to survive in an expensive city or live comfortably in a place others overlook? If this video is making you think differently about where you live, subscribe to the channel. We break down the real truth behind American cities, housing, and lifestyle decisions that most people never question. And comment below. Would you move to a cheap city if it meant a better quality of life? Next, we will dive deeper into specific U.S. cities where houses are shockingly cheap, the hidden reasons behind their prices, and whether buying there is a smart move or a risky mistake. We uncovered the foundation behind cheap housing in America. Population loss, limited job markets, harsh weather, old reputations, and isolation all play a role. But now it is time to go deeper. Because behind every cheap house is a city with a story. A story of rise, decline, survival, and sometimes quiet rebirth. Let us begin with one of the most misunderstood reasons housing remains cheap in many U.S. cities. Crime perception versus reality. Some cities gained reputations during their worst decades and never escaped them. News headlines focused on violence, abandonment, and decay. But what most people do not realize is that crime is often concentrated in specific neighborhoods, not entire cities. Many affordable cities have safe, quiet areas with strong community ties, yet prices remain low because outsiders only remember the past. Fear freezes demand, and frozen demand keeps prices low. Another major reason houses are cheap is lack of aggressive marketing. Cities like Austin, Nashville, and Phoenix actively promoted themselves. They attracted companies, influencers, and relocation campaigns. Many cheap cities never did. They focused inward, not outward. Without promotion, people never consider them. Housing markets depend on attention as much as economics. No attention means no competition. No competition means low prices. Now, let us talk about infrastructure gaps. Some cities have outdated roads, aging public transport, or underfunded public services. This does not mean life is unbearable, but it does mean growth is slow. When infrastructure does not improve, investors hesitate. Developers stay away. Housing prices remain low because modernization never arrives at scale. For buyers who do not rely on constant upgrades, this can be an advantage. For others, it feels like stagnation. There is also the issue of school rankings. Families drive housing markets. When schools are rated poorly, families avoid buying homes nearby. Even if crime is low and homes are beautiful, weak school systems suppress prices. Many cheap cities struggle to retain young families for this reason alone. Housing remains affordable because the biggest buyer group stays away. Another overlooked factor is local culture resistance to change. Some cities do not welcome rapid growth. Residents prefer stability over expansion. They resist large developments, zoning changes, and gentrification. While this preserves character, it also limits appreciation. Prices stay low because growth is intentionally slow. For people who want quiet, this is ideal. For investors chasing appreciation, it is not. Now let us examine specific categories of cities where housing is cheapest. First are post-industrial cities. These cities were once economic engines. When factories closed, jobs vanished faster than people could adapt. Entire neighborhoods emptied out. Today, these cities still carry the scars of that collapse. Houses that once held working families now sit vacant or underpriced. The infrastructure was built for twice the population that exists today. Until population recovers, prices stay low. Second are border cities and interior hubs. Cities far from oceans, mountains, or major tourist routes struggle to attract new residents. They lack visual appeal on social media, no beaches, no iconic skylines. But what they offer is space, affordability, and stability. These cities quietly function without glamour, and that keeps housing cheap. Third are cities dependent on government or military employment. When funding fluctuates, so does demand. These cities rarely experience housing booms because their economies move slowly. Prices remain stable and low year after year. Now let us confront a difficult truth. Some houses are cheap because people do not want the lifestyle. Entertainment options are limited. Restaurants close early. Nightlife barely exists. Dating pools are smaller. Career advancement is slower. For people chasing excitement, these cities feel boring. But for others, boring means peaceful. Cheap housing often comes with quiet streets, lower stress, and stronger neighbor relationships. Another critical reason housing is cheap is abandoned commercial districts. When downtowns decline, surrounding housing suffers. Empty storefronts send a message of failure, even if residential areas are stable. Cities that struggle to revive downtown cores see housing prices remain low until that image changes. Let us talk about housing oversupply, a concept few understand. Some cities built massive numbers of homes during economic booms. When populations declined, the housing never left. More supply than demand equals lower prices. This is one of the strongest forces keeping prices low today. Now let us shift to the question everyone is asking. Are cheap houses worth buying? The answer depends entirely on your goals. If your goal is rapid appreciation, cheap cities may disappoint you. Growth is slow. Gains take time. But if your goal is stability, low monthly costs, and ownership without stress, these cities are powerful options. For retirees, cheap cities offer freedom. Fixed incomes stretch further. Property taxes may be high in some places, but purchase prices offset that. For remote workers, these cities offer space and affordability while keeping salaries intact. For first-time buyers, they offer entry into home ownership that expensive markets deny. However, cheap housing also comes with responsibilities. You must research neighborhoods carefully. You must understand local taxes. You must evaluate long-term population trends. Not every cheap city will recover. Some will continue to shrink. Now, let us talk about the future. Remote work Rising housing costs elsewhere and lifestyle burnout are changing migration patterns. People are leaving expensive cities, not because they want to, but because they have to. This shift will slowly raise prices in cheap cities. But this process takes years. Right now, many of these cities remain underpriced relative to what they offer. Here's the hidden truth. The American housing market is not broken everywhere. It is broken where everyone wants to live. Cheap cities exist because most people are chasing the same dream in the same places. Those who think differently find opportunities others miss. Before we end, ask yourself this. Do you want to live where everyone else wants to live? Or where life actually feels livable? Cheap housing is not a sign of failure. It is often a sign of neglect, misunderstanding, or timing. Some of the most affordable cities today will be tomorrow's comeback stories. Others will remain quiet forever. The key is knowing the difference. If this video helped you understand the real reasons behind cheap housing in America, like the video and subscribe. This channel is about truth, not hype, and comment below. Would you ever buy a house in a city everyone else ignores? Because sometimes, the smartest move is the one nobody else is making.